Hello. So I am here again with Dr. Rouven Schneider, cultural anthropologist and couples therapist. And we're going to continue our conversations on entering a new relational paradigm. But today we're going to get a little bit more specific in talking about this amazing training that Rouven has developed from 13 years in the field, where he shares his life work and the method of needs-oriented couples counseling weaved into this evolutionary relating. So, Rouven, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, Ida.
Conversation. And I would love to start with just shortly sharing where you come from with this work. Like, how have you, because I know this training is packed with so much experience and both practical and theoretical, and where does this, where have you gathered all of this work that is put into this training?
Yeah, well, actually, I would say it comes from three sources. The one is actually my anthropological studies I've done at the university. Although they were mostly related to ancient cultures, I was very much interested in how cultures transform and evolve, and not just understand one culture as it is, like maybe the ancient Greek culture or the Egyptian culture, but rather see like how do influences lead to transitions, and how are influences in different cultures absorbed and lead to evolution. And this led to a perspective, like a scientific perspective of long-term developments. So I sometimes see myself like watching the news or hearing stuff like that, like talks in society, and it's so much always focused on now or the near future. But I cannot do it differently than look at it and see like, where does it come from? Where is it right now? What are the slight movements and where do they head? So in a way, I have this transitional goggles on looking at that. And that comes from my studies, 13 years of being at the university and doing a PhD there. So this is one. And the second is, after I then decided not to follow the university path, but rather step out when I came in contact with what you call your spiritual awakening, and with alternative healing methods and personal development. I gathered a lot of, I would say, coaching tools, healing tools, perspectives, Taoistic philosophy, shamanistic views on the earth, energetic medicine, and stuff like that. And I worked with that a couple of years, like very randomly, in just coaching healing methods. That was how I then started to work. And the first source, the third source, and maybe the most major, that I work and then concentrated on couples, is my own history. Like, I always focused so much on finding the right partnership, finding the right connection as a source of my well-being and my thriving. In, like, put the other way around, I thought I needed to have a, like, for my terms, proper relationship to work as a basis on which everything else is built. Today, after doing my personal inner work, I know this resolved from years and decades of trauma. Relational trauma rooted in childhood and then played out in different ways in all my relationships. And I've looked at relationships, like I suffered under relationships from all kinds. Like I was married and divorced in the worst way. I had polyamorous relationships. I had long distance relationships. I had committed monogamous, holy, sacred relationships. And I have children and were a few years a single parent. So I have views into that from, I would say, all kinds of sides. But the thing is, I always needed the relationship to work because I had this relational trauma underneath that told me I needed to work, otherwise nothing else will work. I cannot sleep properly. I cannot do my job properly. I cannot be there for the kids properly. As I said, I know this comes from trauma, but this led to optimizing and really seeing through what happens and seeing through the patterns of relationships because I had the need to improve and improve and improve and improve. So it finally works. So I finally arrived somewhere. So 13 years ago, I started to, with my coaching methods, work with couples, still being in my trauma vortex myself. And while doing the work and while doing my inner work, continuing that, and then stumbling over trauma-aware body work, I finally managed to shift and more or less get out of my old patterns, but still bringing with me all the data I gathered and all the experiences I gathered, like on my self-exploring journey through all kinds of relationships. So I can now look at what happened there from an outside perspective and see what patterns and dynamics play out in relationships and what we actually need to make it work and where the forces and the driving forces come from there. Yeah. So it's a yeah, as you said, it's a life's journey that now is my focus on work, but actually just the last years with the proper awareness and stepping out of my own trauma and doing my healing journey. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and giving such a vulnerable peek into your own personal journey. I know for myself, I can only trust the teachers that, have actually lived and worked through what they teach themselves. I know that really builds trust for me to feel their own personal journey in it. And not just this is something that I learned and that's why I teach it. Yeah. So I really appreciate you're sharing yourself that way. And I know the people watching will also, get to know you better through that. Yeah, and what I would love for you to also share a little bit more about, I know with this background, the cultural anthropology, your different spiritual and energetic work, and your own personal trauma history. When you then started working with couples, and you have for now, I think 12 or 13 years, yeah? You have, through that experience of working with, I don't know how many couples, maybe you have a count.
Well, a few years ago, I like calculated, like kind of, it were over 1,000 couples, and maybe now it's like 1,500 couples. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, through that experience, you have actually developed your own method of couples counseling, right? So I would love for you to describe that a little bit more. What is unique about your method?
Yeah. Well, my method is called needs-oriented couples counseling. And it's not so much about the needs of the people coming to my sessions, that they bring a need and I solve that. So it's not so much about fixing problems or saving marriages. What people actually come with, they like, oh, this doesn't work anymore, and we've tried for years, and now we need help here. It's not about fixing anything. It's about realizing that every action we take, every goal we thrive towards, every virtue we develop has a need underneath. So needs are the driving forces for everything we do and every direction we go towards. And these needs we focus upon in my couples therapy. So we dig down, what is the need, what's the actual hidden, mostly hidden need underneath your action, underneath your behavior that makes you deal with your partner the way you do, and then the partner as well. And there you see it's mostly, or it's actually, yeah, maybe even always about like, I need safety, I need connection here, but I also cannot compromise myself anymore and my self-esteem and my virtues. But what plays out is like, you don't talk to me and you always behave like that. Like then on top of that, the dynamics play out. But if we look deeper, one level deeper, we see the needs driving these dynamics, and we focus on them. Solutions and finding solutions is actually quite easy. And then it's only, in quotes, a matter of how fast can I focus on our needs that are mutually vulnerably shared and focused upon again, and find new dynamics, healthier dynamics to address them. Yeah. And what then happened like about 4 years ago, when I learned about that, the trauma-informed view on that, like how our upbringing actually forms our needs and how our experiences actually form our patterns, came into that. As I learned it, I could immediately integrate that, because it's like needs and trauma is so closely related, because trauma creates secondary needs that isn't actually my actual need. Like I would say we have a primary need for things to express and to thrive and to bring myself into the world, for example, but then trauma overlays that and covers this first need with a second need for belonging, because I never felt loved or I never felt integrated somewhere. And then it shows like this is the only thing. But if we uncover that and look beneath, we can build up this person, like peeking then through this later developed layer through trauma, peeking through and bringing an own motivation with it. Yeah. So it has this needs orientation and the trauma-informed view on couple dynamics. And I just realized I could, like you asked me one simple question, I was like, wow. It's you already shared, it's my life's work. I wouldn't actually go so far. It's maybe until now, because I see myself maybe at the mid of my life. Yeah, I'm curious about what else I will come up, but it's a gigantic manifest of relational experience, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and research, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't expect a simple answer, and I think the people watching and interested in the training love to get this in-depth perspective, also because it is a really deep dive training, right? It's packed with lots of practical tools and methods, and yeah, it is a training, right? It's a professional training. It's not just
it's not a workshop. It's like, that's very important. It's not a workshop or some like, oh, you get some tools for this. It's a complete training where I share everything I know and everything how I work with couples. Very, very successful since over a decade now, to the participants.
Yeah. And what I'm getting from your description now is that it has a holistic approach. It treats the symptom. No, not the symptoms. It treats the cause, not the symptoms, right? This method of couples counseling, whereas other methods might focus on the behavior, like you need to talk differently to me, or you need to do this or that differently, right? In the couple, rather than looking at why do you keep acting out, or why do you withdraw? What is the need behind that behavior, right? So I think that's a really important piece, to see that this approach is the cause and not just the symptoms of the problems in the relationships of the couples, right? So I think this is a good fit, this training, for people that that are interested in more of a holistic approach, where you take in the whole person and the cause of why we behave the way we do, right? And I know it has a lot of different methods also in how you work with the couples, right? So there's one thing is how you look at it, how you look at a relationship and the behavior and so on. But what could you tell us about that? How you actually work with the couples? I know you work with different somatic tools, for instance, and that it's not just about talking with the couples. Would you speak into that a little bit more? Because I think that's also quite unique and interesting.
Yeah. Actually, that's interesting. Now I realize like how complex this is, but that's why we need a whole training to deliver that. Like the baseline is creating a mindset in understanding of how actually people function, like driven by needs, but needs are formed maybe by trauma and what I just shared. This is the basic mindset. So with this, the future couple therapists or couple counselors look on what is happening. Then the people coming don't even need to realize that in the first sessions or at all, maybe. It's about then reading body language and seeing how they move and how close they sit together, and if they can look into their eyes longer than a blink of a second, and like reading into that and taking the somatics in account. And then slowly and very, very gently using somatic tools, maybe just putting the heads together or looking in each other's eyes while they are sharing their side of the story. And then mirroring back to the people what I discover, what I see. Like, oh, when she says that, I see you looking away or cannot holding the gaze anymore, and taking this, and they're like, okay, stop, let's go there. So taking the somatics and creating somatic situations, playing with distances or looking at each other or touch if possible, to actually use that as a as hints to find what is happening in the people. So it's not so much about finding a heady solution. It's about actually addressing the deep impacts that the clients might not even notice themselves, and work bottom up so they can feel connected again. And then integrate what is perceived and experienced into a structured framework, blueprint of like, okay, what does happen here? Like in a theory, like for example, the window of tolerance. like seeing, okay, they are connected and things are happening, and then one word comes, or the voice rises of some people, and it totally kicks out the person out of its window of tolerance, and this person gets activated and then reacts that, and then like, okay, stop here and then see what is happening, what is playing out usually when one comes home and annoys the other, and then he annoys back, and then there's a victim perpetrator thing and dynamics going on, and the people are in that since years. And having really like this one shot at a time, like really slow-mo perception of what is happening, enables the people to get an awareness for that, and then self-empowered and self-responsibly slowly shift their patterns into new dynamics. And then giving them tools, also practical tools like sharing methods, talk games, yeah, like for example, switching the perspective, yeah. So that's very practical. So it has this practical approach, the somatic approach, and the huge theoretic mindset behind it that is given piece by piece to the clients so they can also understand what is happening in them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. I think that's like there you both have the trauma informed piece again, how you work practically, because you're working with the client's nervous systems, right? As soon as you're working with the body and creating sense of safety within the body between them through somatic exercises, through touch, through somatic connection, right? You're working with the nervous system, you're bringing them into a more regulated state where they're actually able to be connected and think logically and have empathy for each other and find solutions, right? Because if you're not in a regulated state, that's really hard, if not impossible.
It's not impossible.
So there you have the trauma-informed piece again, which I think is really amazing to also bring that into the practical work with the clients, not just the theory behind the method. And then you also have an educational piece, which I love, that you just shared, that you actually educate the clients. You learn, you teach them about their nervous system and about their needs and about what happens.
And patterns and
Right, you slow it down enough for them to be able to understand what's happening. And I love that. And I think that shows like a new approach of actually empowering your clients to find solutions on their own, to tend to their relationship on their own, so they don't get what's the word, dependent on you as a therapist, right?
So I'm
because
not
that happens.
Right, I'm not fixing momentary struggles or problems. I'm enabling them to, whatever then comes, deal with that, because it's about the mechanisms that the problems initiate and not the problems by themselves. Yeah. The people come with, we have this problem, please help us fix this. And I teach them to solve whatever problem, or stay, not solve, but stay connected in whatever problem will come. Yeah, that's not a very economic way of working with people for me, but it's very very successful and empowers the people to actually behave and approach the other more of what they really want. Like a lot of people come to me like, I don't want to become that angry. I don't want to talk like that to my wife. But I always like, how can I not? Like, I don't want to shout at my children, but they are just, and then like it touches me to tears if people really then make the jump and change their behavior and say like, oh, we had the situation again. I've yelled at them 1,000 times before, and now I caught myself and did something else. Bam, that's it. And then the other one sees like, oh, wow, thank you. Usually this would have happened. Now it doesn't. And this enables me then to react differently. And then we're in an upward spiral. Yeah, because they only knew the downward spiral dynamic since years. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I think that gives like more sustainable help to the clients, and maybe not economical in the moment, but when the word gets around, like it has for you. I know you've been fully booked for years now with a waiting line of couples wanting to work with you because it works so well and the word gets around, right? So maybe not instantly financially rewarding, but definitely in the long term, and also for your clients in the long term, creates a sustainable way to actually work with each other in the relationship. Yeah. And you mentioned the word dynamic, and I also heard this upward spiral. And I think this is also something that is unique about this method and about this training, that it has this approach of focusing on the dynamic, what happens between in the couple, and not about who's wrong or who's right. Do you want to speak into that a little bit more, and how you can shift the dynamic from a downward to an upward spiral?
Yeah, well, since I developed this view on, or how I deal with couple dynamics from the get-go, I developed that. I never realized that much that is such a difference towards a lot of other psychotherapeutical approaches. But the more I talk with colleagues and friends and other therapists, I like, it slowly gets to me that there is no, and I really mean no, judgment at all on any of the behavior of the people. Like, sure, like I would say, like, oh, I wouldn't want to be treated that way, or like, what an asshole, like on superficial level. But on the working level, there's no judgment at all, because again, I realize what need lies behind his or her actions. So it's always just the need, and the needs are pure. The needs are beautiful. We all have more or less the same needs. We can reduce them to actually just 3. Yeah, we are like all wired the same, but we have so many different strategies to play out. And some are like, look nasty or lead to hurt. But playing out the need strategy comes towards a dynamic. So it's like the dynamic can be unhealthy, the dynamic can be ugly, but what's behind it is always a very nice need. There's never the need like, I want to hurt you. There's the need for, I feel hurt and I want you to see me. And maybe that's why I choose the strategy to hurt you, so you feel as I feel, or something like that. But like, if we reduce everything through the dynamic and through the judgments to the needs, it's just beautiful and pure and human. So we look at the dynamic and break up, but break up with the dynamic and not break up with each other necessarily. Yeah. And as I said, the viewpoint on the needs makes it possible to really stay neutral, to not be on one side, to not have me as a therapist boundaries of what might happen or not. Like, sure, there are boundaries within the dynamic, like don't yell at your partner, or if there's force, like, sure, that's a no-go, but that's always the dynamic, the strategy playing out. So we need healthy dynamics, which we get when we focus on what we really need. So the needs, yeah.
And that turns it from this reinforcement of the unhealthy dynamic to reinforcing a healthy dynamic, right?
Yeah.
That what you described as a spiral.
Yeah. And it has the side effect that when we are able to dig down to the need, we immediately become vulnerable. Like, the other one sees me, because usually the person reacts on my actions and then reacts on that, and like, that's the dynamic. But if I see where your reactions come from, the need, it's like, oh, you're just hurt. Yeah. So that becomes vulnerable. And seeing another being in vulnerability automatically creates, like if I receive that openly, it automatically creates bonding and connection. So it's about creating an openness and an empathy, a benevolence, so I can receive the other one in his or her vulnerability. And that creates connection, and then the possibility for new solutions and upward dynamics. Yeah.
Yeah, and this connects it to what we've been talking about in our conversations, right? This new relational paradigm where we look at relationships, any relationship, as a possibility to help each other grow and evolve and heal, right? Through these upward spirals to reinforcing positive and healthy dynamics instead of reinforcing hurt and trauma. So this is like the bridge between what we've been talking about in this training. And I love that there is this opportunity. I know a lot of people have been reaching out and sharing how inspired they are from listening to us and hearing specifically your perspectives, which are quite unique. That there actually is this opportunity now that you can learn this. You can learn how to work with this, both professionally, if you want to work with couples or already work with couples, but also personally, if you want to dive deeper into learning and healing your own relational patterns and dynamics. I just want to reinforce that this training is also for you. And that this is a beautiful opportunity to really dive into this work. And it is packed in 6 modules, right? Over 4 months, is it now?
It's March to June, yeah. 3.5 months, So it's a quite intense ride, that is structured very well, as I feel, since I've done like doing this in the 4th year now. So we had 3 runs already in Germany. It's it's very well structured, building upon so everyone like can follow and integrate the theory, the practicals, and the mindset into their lives, into their behavior, but also into their body of work. And what I want to express is that it's in a way adaptable to every kind of coaching or therapeutical work you do. So it's not like a new thing and you can have to decide between this or that. You can, in a way, simulate both or combine things. You don't need to take all of it. You can just extract certain things if you already work with people, but want to understand more about couple dynamics, needs orientation, trauma awareness, like it's state-of-the-art trauma awareness. What we hear from Gabo Mate or everyone like listens to this little talks, these up-to-date trauma therapists give. Like I always see like, this is addressing that point and this is addressing this point. Like this is what we work with, this is what we deal with, and we make it practical. So you can apply it and experience it yourself while being in the training.
Yeah, beautiful. And who would you say this training is for? Like what kind of people have you had in the last 3 rounds? Is it only psychologists or what different kind of?
No, it isn't. It's actually a very colorful group. I think the most variable that decides who comes is like who can, in a way, work with me, because I'm sometimes excited and I get loud and then I lose my thread and I just like I have gestures and I'm like, people need to have to deal with me and the way I deliver the body of work. But there were like really psychotherapists and therapists that have a practice since 30, 40 years, no, not 40, 30 years, and like are the leading practitioners in the cities I've taught in. Yeah. They came together with their partner, interestingly. Yeah. And then with people that just started a coaching business or had some Gestalt therapy or somatic experiencing background and wanted to get some more coaching tools or mindsets. Plus people that from the start said, like, I just want to have that for my relationship. Because, for example, people living in long distance relationships or polyamorous relationships like that are a little more complex than just the real usual standard. If it works, fine, yeah.
Which is complex enough.
Just complex enough, yeah. But that just are really relational geeks and want to develop their self-responsibility more. Yeah. So it's people for themselves till on the other spectrum, like real professionals. Yeah. And what's the nice thing is we all go on eye level. Yeah. We share together, we apply the tools on ourselves. It's not just a head front teaching, yeah, where you sit at your desk and have to be stiff. Like, we are moving, we're using the somatic tools, we are sharing vulnerable, we are experiencing how vulnerability and transparency creates bonding. So we bond within the group and realize what happens there and feel the awkwardness in that. And but that is like experiencing how relationships work, because it's not only applicable, I think it's the word, for romantic relationships. Like, this is where we focus on. And this is where the need is and where you can work with people. But it's applicable to any form of relationship. Yeah.
Because everyone is in some sort of relationship, right? So you could
yeah,
say that this training is for everyone.
This training is for everyone. Yeah.
Because we're all in some sort of relationship or have been. Yeah, for sure.
That's the crazy part, I would say, actually. We are all in relationships. We are even all in romantic relationships. And if we're not, there's a reason for that. So we have been hurt in romantic relationships or something like that, right? So we all know this field, but mostly no one really has all the variables in sight. So we need people to guide and to help others to make some kind of sense out of what we are doing anyway while relating. And that's why I want to spread this, because it has proven very practical and very successful for the people I've worked with.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And my schedule is full, so I need others to spread this. I really want to impact the culture. That's my cultural anthropologist speaking again. That I'm not doing that for the couples. Like, sure, in that moment, I want to infuse culture with a more aware and trauma-informed way of dealing with each other. Because actually, just right now, if you look in the news, and if you see what's playing out culturally and politically, that's far from aware, that's far from responsible, that's far from realizing where my actions come from. So it has this really bigger idea of creating a better world and starting bottom up with everyone and every couple owning a little more of their responsibility.
Beautiful. I love that, to feel your passion behind that and the deeper intention. And I just want to recommend, if you're watching this, to also watch the first episode that we did on entering a new relational paradigm, where we speak into why is there a new relational paradigm needed, to get a little bit more about this cultural shift that is happening on a relational level, and that we can support with more awareness and understanding, and through going to this training.
Yes.
So yeah, just as a closing, what have some previous participants, what have they shared as the impact of this training on them? How have they taken it with them and integrated it in their lives and professionality? Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Well, a lot of participants shared how practical this is applicable. Yeah. So it's not something they have to like remember and study and then like, okay, now I do it the Rouven way. Yeah. It's more like they have their clients and then they suddenly realize like, here I can use this, or here I can have this method from Rouven and just try something out. So it really just really slowly, like a mycelium, infuses the way of thinking and the way of working. So it's not that you have to decide for one way or the other. And that's what a lot of participants or previous participants say. Like, oh, I really feel like I understood this and now I just work with that. And they also share that this infuses their private relationships the same way. Like they look at what is happening differently and can create a gap between impulse and reaction. And that's actually the essence. What I wanna evoke in people, and that's what they share. I even get mails years after, like from the first and the second training, where they say like, Rouven, still I sometimes stumble over the notes in the what do you call it, the script, yeah, and like and then I remember this situation, and it's like now it makes sense. Like even years later, they go deeper and deeper, and they think about it once more, and they're like, now I really got it, and it's still alive. So I really feel it really gives an impact that stays. It's not just one more training you want to learn. If you open for this and you let this in, it will affect the way of how you see relationships, how you live relationships, and how you can help people live better relationships.
Beautiful. Yeah. And yeah, I just want to share personally also that I know that this stuff works.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
This is just not something that I'm promoting just for fun, but this actually resonates so deeply with my own work and my own intentions for contributing to the world. And I have both experienced this personally through relating with you in different forms, and stood side by side with you professionally. So in many ways, I can just fully stand behind what you're offering and highly recommend it to anyone that feels the call or feels a curiosity. And if you do feel that curiosity and you have questions, please reach out. We are easy to find. And I guess we'll share more in the description wherever we share this video to link to the event where you can read more about the practical details, so we don't have to go through that now. But yeah, highly recommend joining for this training, and reach out if there's any questions that have come up as you've been listening.
Yeah, and if you're curious about asking yourself if that's really the right thing for you, or if you should invest that much time or money even, just reach out. It's not that we want to sell something to you. We can just have a call and see like, okay, where could we meet? Like, what is your inquiry, and is that the right fit for you? That's why we have this application. It's not that you have to be special to be able to attend. We're just looking that the field in a way it's a good fit, that we can really go deep there, and the people that want to be there really want to be there, because I know it's a big time investment. We have the dates and the times as a possibility for people from all Scandinavia to be able to come, even on a part-time work possibility. So it's not just for people in Malmö, but like for people in all Sweden or Denmark, or you can come from Stockholm, yeah. That makes it possible. And I know that's a big investment. And if you're just curious but don't know really, let's just have a chat and talk about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have a super early bird for a few more days if you apply before the end of December. So highly recommend you do that, and you don't commit to anything other than just to have a call with us by doing that. And you can pay in rates also if that's an obstacle, right? We can find a solution for that.
Yeah, that's all not a problem. Yeah.
Beautiful. So do you want to share anything to close today, or do you feel complete?
I bet I want to, but I need to check in. Yeah. I talked this morning with a friend of mine, and he's been a psychotherapist for 40 years. So I had my fatherly friend at my breakfast table this morning. And it got clear there that it's a very different approach to usual psychotherapy methods or approaches, and that the way I take the needs in account and focus so much on the dynamic with this state-of-the-art somatic and trauma-aware work. He says, like, wow, we never learned that 30 or 20 years ago. Yeah. So it's a very different approach that that addresses actually the needs. That's why it's needs-oriented couples therapy. Yeah. And it got clear that it's not so much about the couples, but infusing understanding how we humans work, how relationship works. And it's not about just people that are open-minded, or people that are into open relating, or people that are into monogamous relating. It's holistic human relating. So you don't have to have a certain way of wanting to relate, and it's only about open relating. Yes, that's also a part, but only for the ones that have the need for it, right? So it's about every kind of relating, and that makes it so profound, because it's, although it has this big applicability, it's very concrete and very precise, put in a format that can be delivered. So really, I'm actually proud of that. Like, it fell into my lap. Yeah. It was hard work to experience all that. But I want to share that. I don't want to just leave it fall under the table. I think the world needs this.
Yeah, for sure. And what I'm hearing, what you just shared, is like, this is the stuff we should have learned in school, right?
Right. Yeah.
How do we relate? How do we work as relational beings in the world? And how can we create healthy relationships? So again, highly recommend this training for anyone that feels that call or feels inspiration from anything that we've shared. And reach out to us with any questions, and go read more on Rouven's website if you're curious. So I want to thank you for giving us a deeper understanding for what this training is all about. I bet you've inspired many, and look forward to continue our conversations.
Yeah, me too. My pleasure, Ida, again and again. Yeah. Thanks so much for asking such profound questions that actually bring me into my thriving and excitement for this, so people can feel me there. Yeah.
Thank you for inspiring me always. Okay, and thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Bye.